Hi there, John Wilkinson again and History Made Easier again. This video is going to give an overview of the British policy of appeasement. It's mostly taken from my ebook, Germany and the Causes of World War II. So it'll give you a flavour of the book as well as, I think, a pretty good overview of appeasement. So let's take a look at appeasement. And in looking at the way I've set this out in my ebook, Germany and World War II, I think we're also going to see the advantage of a good notes framework, as well as the advantage of good old PEE as an approach to writing good paragraphs in history. Make your point. For me, the first E is explain its relevance to the question you're answering and explain the significance or importance of your point. And the second E being provide some evidence. So let's have a look first at the notes framework that I have. And you can see that I give reasons. First of all, overarching reasons, and I think these centre on the fact that Britain was increasingly seeing the Treaty of Versailles as being unfair on Germany, but also the fact that Britain, as a democracy, had a problem with going to war so easily. War is just not a vote winner. So they are my overarching reasons for appeasement. But then there are specific reasons that Britain held to at each stage of appeasement. You can see there that I begin with rearmament before moving on to remilitarization of the Rhineland-Anschluss and the Munich Agreement. And if we just take rearmament as an example, I'm not going to go through them all, but Britain argued that Germany had a right to defend itself, and clearly, back to the Treaty of Versailles, it was left unable to do so. Overarching reasons and reasons given at the time at each point in which appeasement became policy, was seen to be Britain's policy. And then we look at the arguments as to whether it was right or wrong. And I'll go through them briefly for you and show how I set them out in my ebook. But my conclusion, you see, I set a question in my conclusion for my notes framework, and you could set it up usefully in answering an exam question. It depends, of course, on what that question specifically asks. But was it the right policy at the time? Or was it wrong both then and now? You know, it's easy to judge appeasement as the wrong policy in hindsight. Not so easy at the time. So let's have a look at the arguments. I've gone through this before setting this up, and I've put the kind of headline figures in bold for you. So you can see that I begin with the fact that there was a lot of sympathy in Britain when it came to a revision of the Treaty of Versailles. And then I set that out in my paragraph and note how, you begin by making your point, PEE. My second argument is that Britain's foreign policy with regard to Europe had also been unsure as to which was the greater threat to Britain, Nazi Germany or a communist Soviet Union. After World War II, we have no argument about that. But prior to World War II, it was not a straightforward thing. My next paragraph, I look at Britain was unsure as to what support it would get. It had no guarantee of support from America, and as we know, America didn't come into the war until Pearl Harbor, but it also couldn't count on support from its empire, support that had been essential in winning World War I. So that was another factor that British governments had to look at, had to consider. And we have the very real issue that the British economy, like the rest of the world, was struggling to recover from the Great Depression. And really getting jobs back for the British people was the British government's priority. And then we have the psychological impact of World War I. The fact that that war had led to so many deaths and no responsible British politician could rush Britain back into another such war. Added to that was the fact that everybody now knew that another major war would lead to cities, or would likely lead to cities being bombed. And we had the example in 1937 of just what the aeroplane could do with the bombing of Guernica. And so to our arguments against appeasement. Again, think about wrong at the time, or wrong in hindsight. Hitler simply could not be trusted. And for goodness sake, Hitler did make clear his intention to smash the Treaty of Versailles, to ensure Lebensraum, and to go on the warpath against communism. What is more, as he got away with each gamble that he took, remilitarization, rearming rather, and then remilitarizing the Rhineland and so on, as he got away with each gamble, his confidence only grew. And we could add to that his popularity in Germany only grew. And with each success, Germany also became stronger. It gained more defendable borders, it gained more people, and so more soldiers, potential soldiers, and it gained a greater and greater ability to produce arms. But this leads to a secondary question, and I go into a little length on this, a few paragraphs on this, that if Hitler should have been stopped, when should he have been stopped? And that's something that you guys should consider before your exam. And you can see that I have 2 paragraphs on that. Not a lot of reading, but it gives food for thought. And then the final argument against appeasement is that there is a direct link from appeasement to the Nazi-Soviet pact, and the argument being that appeasement only drove Stalin into the arms of Hitler. Appeasement drove the Soviet Union to make a deal with the devil. And so, if I whiz back to my notes framework, there's our overview of appeasement. The reasons for it, overarching reasons and specific reasons, the debate about whether it's right or wrong, whether it was ever right or wrong, and with that final question to ask ourselves, was it the right policy at the time, or was it wrong both then and now? So there you have my overview of appeasement, and I think it covers just about every question you could expect to get in your exam. So I think you'll find it useful. I certainly hope so. Cheers.